Howdy, my name is Jaylene Gonzalez. I'm going to be presenting the first immunology project for the semester for our VTPB for online immunology course for spring 2026. My teammates were Jorge Escobar and Stefania Beltran. So I'm going to be going over the first general properties of innate and adaptive immunity. Innate, what's important to know is it's the first line of defense, responds within minutes to hours, which is really fast. It is present from birth and has no memory specificity. Unlike adaptive immunity, which does have memory and is highly specific, but it does have a slower response, but it just ensures a strong response upon re-exposure. It also develops through life. So how they work together is that the innate immune system basically ensures that the adaptive immune system is activated properly. And we'll go more into that later. But the components of the immune system, so innate immunity, we have physical and chemical barriers that prevent pathogens from entering the body. So physical barriers could be our skin or cilia, and chemical barriers could be our stomach acid. Then we also have cells that are involved. So neutrophils and macrophages engulf and destroy pathogens. Natural killers induce apoptosis in infected or abnormal cells. Cytokines coordinate immune response and they signal immune cells and promote inflammation. The complement system enhances inflammation and optimizes pathogens. Adaptive immunity is mediated by lymphocytes like T cells and B cells that neutralize and are marked pathogens for destruction. It's important to know that B cells have been producing antibodies, and T cells can differentiate into helper cells or cytotoxic cells that respectively activate immune cells or kill infected cells. Both provide specificity and long term memory. Now, the immune system organization. So there are two specialized tissue groups that are called the primary and secondary lymphoid organs. So the primary organs are the bone marrow and thymus. Immune cells like T cells and B cells are produced in the bone marrow. As for maturation, B cells stay and mature in the bone marrow, while T cells mature in the thymus. The secondary organs are the liver, spleen, and mucosal tissues. The liver filters lymph and is key to responses to tissue infections. The spleen filters blood in response to pathogens in the blood, and the mucosal tissues act as a protectant for body surfaces exposed to the environment. When it comes to lymphocyte circulation and antigen presentation, so I will go over this generally because we are going to go more into depth later in the chapter two slides. But lymphocytes are basically constantly circulating through the blood, the lymph, the secondary lymphoid organs. So the circulation increases the chances of the lymphocytes encountering specific antigens. So how it occurs, antigen is captured, then it is it enters, then it is captured, then it migrates to the lymph nodes where it is then introduced or presented to the T cell, and then from there the adaptive response is initiated. Now we are in chapter two. So we have PRRs, PAMPs, and DAMPs. What are they, right? So PRRs are pattern recognition receptors, and what they'll do is that they'll recognize PAMPs or DAMPs. PAMPs are pathogen-associated molecular patterns. So these are structures that are shared by microbes, such as bacterial cell walls, that are recognized by PRRs. If they're not recognized by the shared structure, they're recognized by the fact that they are damaged or injured, which is what the damage-associated molecular patterns are. Then we have immune cells from myoblasts, and so neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils are immune cells that they play specialized roles. So neutrophils are rapid responders, and they engulf and destroy microbes, especially bacteria. Eosinophils are important for defense against parasitic infections, while basophils release inflammatory mediators involved in allergic responses. Then we have mitosis of neutrophils. So this is just showing that during mitosis, neutrophils expel chromatin and antimicrobial proteins to contain pathogens. Now we have the mast cells, dendritic cells, and macrophages. And so monocytes circulate in the blood and they differentiate into macrophages in tissues where they'll phagocytose pathogens and dead cells. Dendritic cells are critical antigen-presenting cells, APCs, that link innate and adaptive immunity, and mast cells reside in tissues and they release histamine and other mediators that promote inflammation. Then we have our natural killer cells. Simply, what they do is that they'll target virus infected cells and tumor cells, and overall they just provide early defense before adaptive immunity is activated. Now we have our cytokines and its antiviral actions. Again, cytokines coordinate an immune response and they promote inflammation and cell signaling or communication. Then we have type 1 interferons, which are produced by how this graph or this diagram shows a dendritic cell can produce type 1 interferons. And so They're produced during viral infections, and they induce an antiviral state in nearby cells, which makes them resistant to viral replication, which means that these type 1 interferons that are produced suppress viral replication. When it comes to inflammation and the complement system, again, the complement system enhances phagocytosis, promotes inflammation, and can directly kill pathogens. Inflammation increases blood vessel permeability, and it recruits immune cells to the site of an infection or of the infection, and it helps contain and eliminate pathogens. Okay, now that we've gone over all of that, how does innate immunity stimulate adaptive immune responses? So we did go over this generally before in the lymphocyte circulation and pathway activation pathway process portion of this presentation, but this is where we're going to go more into depth. So antigen capture, what has to happen first is that the antigen has to be captured. So innate immune cells, specifically dendritic cells, macrophages, or sometimes B cells, what they'll do is that they will engulf the pathogens, and it'll go through phagocytosis or endocytosis. During this, the pathogen is broken down, and it's broken down into pieces called antigens, right? So that's how antigens are derived. And so these will later be used to inform adaptive immune cells about the specific threat invading the body. But first, they got to be relocated, right? So they become antigens. Now they're going to the lymph nodes. And so they'll migrate through lymphatic vessels to nearby lymph nodes, and these lymph nodes are basically meeting points where the innate immune cells, well, in this case, it could be a dendritic cell, takes the antigen to a lymph node, and it will meet a lymphocyte, which is going to be a T cell. So that's this part. It is just basically being migrated from where it was captured to a lymph node where it is meeting with a T cell. Now, antigen presentation. Now it's meeting the T cell. What's the actual presentation? Well, in order for it to be presented, the APC has to have an MHC molecule that will be recognized by the T cell, and that is the first signal. That's all this is. This is the first signal. Now, the second signal is the co-stimulation. So it's the second signal that makes sure that we are, attacking ourselves or creating an autoimmune response. And basically, the APC will bind to the T cell receptors, and it just makes sure that it's a real pathogen and a real danger instead of a harmless substance to ourselves. And lastly, this is not another signal, but this still occurs before the actual activation, which is a cytokine-driven differentiation, and it's the final step. What happens is that they release cytokines that influences what type of T cell is going to be developed. So whether it's a cytotoxic T cell or a helper T cell, that's basically it. The cytokine influences what type of T cell is going to be created in order to ensure an effective adaptive immune response. But that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching. These are our members' roles, our references, and that is all. I hope that this video helped you more understand innate and adaptive immunity, and specifically how innate immunity helps in initiating the adaptive immune response. Thank you.